When I started this blog, I started it as a writing blog, and I was going to sit in my room and I was going to write all sorts of different stories about what I believed in my life and everything else. And then I sat and told my wife a story today, and she said, "You know, you're not a writer, you're a talker. That's what you've always done." So anyway, here I am talking. I was driving my car yesterday and this little phrase came into my head about some things that have happened to me lately. And it said, if you're not feeling it, you're stealing it. Now, I thought, what does that mean to me? It just came out of the blue. So in the end, have you ever been in a situation where you're doing something in your life that you actually never intended to do, and you don't want to do, you don't like doing, but you do it simply because it's acceptable and because it's safe? Let me tell you, I used to be a street performer and I had a ball. I love street performing. Completely unstable environment, completely socially unacceptable for an adult to make a living, but I loved it and I made good money at it. Then one day, about 13 years ago, I fell off a wall and I broke my back. So I could no longer be a street performer, and I spent 6 months in traction and everything else while I got better. In that time, I met a guy who owned a real estate company, and he said, "Well, do you want to try real estate?" And I thought, yeah, I'm good at talking, I could try real estate. So I went into real estate, and the first year I did so well, and the second year I did so well, made a lot of money. The reason I made a lot of money is because I'm a raconteur, because I talk, because I communicate with people. But I never liked real estate, but it was a good feeling. So eventually I still made good money, but I learned to not like it at all. I didn't like real estate anymore. But I'd forgotten that I was a street performer by now. I was several years in. So what do you do when you forget who you are and you hate what you do? Well, I started my own real estate company, of course. So I went from something I was really good at, which was not acceptable, to something I was good at but didn't like, but which was socially acceptable, to something I hated and was really bad at, because that's the line you follow. So anyway, I did the right thing. I lost my company, started my real estate company at the beginning of the GFC and went broke. So what's the obvious thing to do? Go back in as a real estate salesman, because now everybody recognizes me as a real estate salesman, as somebody who's socially acceptable. And street performing in your 40s is not acceptable. It's just not socially a good thing to do. And it's not solid, it's not stable. So I went back into real estate. And by now, I hated real estate so much that I was really bad at it. Still just good enough to make a bit of a living, not bad enough to sack, not good enough to get anywhere, but 5 miserable days a week, essentially. So eventually, what I did was remember that I used to be a pretty good street performer. So I went back to the street on the weekends and started to perform. And I loved it. And I did so well that I was able to spend the weekend supplementing my lousy wages during the week at something I was bad at. See, do you get where this is going? I'm now socially acceptable, but I spend 5 days a week doing something I really have no soul for, no feeling for. And I go out 2 days a week to make the money doing something I absolutely adore, to do the 5 days I don't adore. So eventually the penny had to drop. So I quit my job. That's what I've done. I've gone back to being a street performer. Now I'm old enough that nobody cares whether I'm socially acceptable or not. And I went to my boss and I said, "I don't want to be a salesman anymore." And he said, "Well, what do you want to be?" I said, "I'm a street performer." He said, "Well, what are you going to do?" I said, "I'm going to give the job to this other guy who really wants to be a salesman. He'll be a great salesman, and I've been stealing his job." So that's what I mean by, if you're not feeling it, you're stealing it. While I was doing something I disliked, I was holding some guy back who really should be doing that job. So now he's come into the company and I've said, "Well, I'll train him." And you know what I found out? I love training people. So now I work 3 days as a street performer. I train a guy for 2 days, I get paid really well for the whole lot, and I smile all the time. And I get 2 days, a week off to spend with my family and talk to you. So guys, think about it. If you're not feeling it, you're stealing it.